Hello guys, welcome to Solving Solutions, your number one channel where I get solutions to all your solving problems. It's nice having you in class again today. How have you been? We are going to look at something on AutoCAD. We want to show you how you can easily export the annotations, or let's say the labels you have on your CAD drawing to, on your CAD, right? Good, on your AutoCAD drawing to QGIS without actually losing those labels, right? Good, because some time ago I tried to move an AutoCAD file to QGIS. However, the annotations on that file were not exported with the file, so we just got a way around it. So I felt it should be shared. So you can see earlier that copied the coordinates of 4 points, or let's say 4 points. Now we are using a polyline to plot it, right? Good. So if you're coming to the channel for the first time, you can encourage us by subscribing, and if you're a returning viewer, thanks for always checking up on us. Good. So let's paste those points as we have copied them. Escape, then zoom extent, right? Good. So we should have our polygon, or we should have our shape like this. Then we came down to annotate, add labels. Good. Then under the add labels window, we come down to line and curve. Then for the label type, we would have used single segment, but since the lines are polygons, and then polylines rather, since the lines are polylines, the shape is a polygon that is joined by polylines. So it's better we use multiple segments so that we can have all the annotations at once, right? Good. Then the line label style, we are using bearing over distance. You can click on this line style composer. Good. You can click on the line style composer button to get more options. Now these are the formats. We have the bearing, and then we have distance, and then the text height and all of that stuff have been set. So if you want to make any modification, you can just click on the content, click on those three dots, then the content will be out for you to modify. However, on today's video, we would not spend much time doing that because they have already been done. Our intention is to add those annotations that we want to export with our card, right? Good, with our card. So we've seen that all the 4 lines have been highlighted. So when we click on select entity, the annotations will be or has been labeled accordingly, right? Good. So when that has been done, we have seen that yes, our distance and bearing, or distances and bearings, have been labeled on our drawing. However, when we try to export this particular drawing to AutoCAD, these distance and should I call it distances and bearings, we are not exported with this drawing. So what happened? So before we leave this space, let's try to type something inside. So we're having two type of text, right? Good. These labels and the text we are going to have. So you will see a distinction between these labels and that text. So let's say we have good. Let's say multi-line text, right? Then let's try to specify a space here, and then let's call this lot. Let's call this, let's say plot, right? Good. Let's say plot. Control A, then let's change the font to something like Times New Roman. I just so like that font. Let's make it bold, and then let's see if we can get 10 out of it, right? Good. So I haven't done all of these. Okay, if this doesn't work, we can always find our way around it. Good, it worked. Do you want to save your text? Yeah, good. So we have a zoom extent somewhere like this. So we have two text. Let's say the text that we have written by ourselves, defining the polygon we are working with, and then the annotations, which looks like text, right? Good. So it will just be easier for you to think that if you want to move this to, maybe if you want to export this out of AutoCAD, you will still find your distance and bearing. So for us to be sure of it, let's try to save this. This test2, and then we ensure that it's a DXF file, because that's what we can easily import to QGIS. Good, so we've actually saved it as test2, right? So we now come to QGIS, then we bring in that layer. So we come down to layer, we come down to add layer, then we click on add vector layer, right? Good, so in the data source manager, we click on browse. Alright, we are actually working on a folder called export labels, so we click on that test2 and then we open that, right? Add. Good. Now pay attention to the items to add. We have an entity, which is what, a line string, and then we have another entity, which is what, points, right? Good. So we are going to see what each of these two entities are, and then we can see the account. We have one of these, and then we also have one of these. So now let's add layers, and then we can just close, right? Good. So we have what, these two entities. Before we work on it, let's layers on CRS set, right? Good. Click on this so that we can set the coordinate reference system for those two layers, right? So we are using zone 31 of the UTM. Let's now zoom this to layer and see how it appears. Now we have our polygon, and then we also have a point. Now what does this point represent? This point actually represents the plot. Let's come down to the attribute table of that particular layer. Good. Now under the attribute table, you can see the different fields, and under the field called text, you can see the text that we have used to label that particular the polygon, right? Good. So when you want to make this I want to say the subject of the formula, when you want to label it with that particular field, you can actually double click on it. So the first thing is let's work on the symbology. Default symbol, right? Okay, good. We don't really care, we just want to change the opacity to 0 so that we can see it. Actually, we can even change the size to 0. We can just change everything we want about it to 0. Since we don't want the point to be displayed, we can just change everything about it to 0. However, let's come down to label. That's where our interest is, right? Good. So we come down to labels, we go to single labels. Good. Now the value we want to use to label is actually what, the text value, right? Let's now come down to the text formatting. Let's say we are still using my favorite Times New Roman. We say bold, italics, and then let's make this 10, and then maybe let's change this to red or something, right? Good. We can just apply that and then click on OK. So you can see the text that was exported with the vector data. Let's still come down to the attribute table of this other polygon to see if there is any field that defines the text. Now you can see the field that defines the text here is indicating null or indicates null. So one thing I got to realize about this drawing is that these annotations are not really text in maybe the context of which we want to see it as text. So they are objects that are joined together. In AutoCAD we have a way of joining, or there's a way of joining objects together, maybe for space or whatever reason. And then before they will be seen as text, they need to be exploded, right? Good. They need to be exploded. So that is the next stage of the video. So for us to achieve that, we can decide to highlight everything, because we also have this as a polygon that should be excluded, but it's not really important. Or we can just select each of these, we call them objects, each of these objects, and then exclude them, right? Good. So you can see object viewer and rest of that. So let's select the second one. Let's say maybe as many as you can, or maybe as many as you have. But since we have 4, let's just select the 4 we have, and then this is the fourth one, right? Good. Then we now use the command exclude, right? Good. So you just type exclude somewhere on your keyboard. So we have exclude, right? Good. And it has been excluded. So we now have each of these texts separately on their own, right? We now have each of these texts separately on their own. So for us to have this thing easily saved, good. So we've actually saved it, and then this time around we identified it as what test 2b. So we are now going to import this particular drawing to QGIS, or let's say we are going to export this particular drawing out of AutoCAD, and then we'll see if this time around we are still going to, or we are not going to have what labels exported as text, right? Good. So we come down to QGIS, then we come up to this point, we go back to our layer, add layer, then we go to add vector layer, then we browse. So we have test 2b, right? Good. Now add. Good. Now pay attention to the values we have now. Remember we had entities, point, line string, and before now the count was 1 and 1. However, the count we have for our first entity, which is like a multi-point, is 9. We have 9. However, we add 1. And then for the entity which is like a polygon or a line string, we have 1, right? Good. So what this simply means is that we now have more point counts than earlier. Let's add it and see what we are trying to say. So that layer has been added. We can decide to close this, right? Good. So let's put this off and put this off as well. So let's change this to zone 31 of the UTM, and then let's change this also to zone 31 of the UTM, right? Good. So we have our polygon and we also have our labels. However, as it was in the beginning, as it was earlier, you can still see that the descriptions are still here as points. So we can decide to do what we did earlier. So for us to save the stress of going over it again, we can just come down to styles, then copy styles, and then let's say all styles category. Then we can come down to this new one. We go to style, and then we say let's paste it, and then we have something like this. Good. Then for the line, I think there was no modification on the line, right? Good. Now the idea behind today's video is to show you how you can maneuver the challenge of these annotations not being exported with your AutoCAD or with your AutoCAD drawing. So it can be something else. It might not really be distance and bearing. It might just be a set of dimensions, or maybe it might just be a set of labels that you have for your CAD drawing, and then you are trying to move it to maybe export it out of AutoCAD. However, you are not or you can't find those annotations as text when you take it out of your AutoCAD environment. So we just we just saw that this is one of the ways or the approaches you can use to export your AutoCAD drawing to maybe QGIS or any other package without losing the annotations or without losing the text. So you can see, however, that the positioning, or let's say the placement of our distance and bearings needs to be modified. However, that's not the scope of today's video. The scope of today's video is to show you how to bring in this text and then see them on on your, maybe your map canvas, or maybe your workspace, right, on maybe QGIS, because we are using AutoCAD and QGIS. So we believe that we've provided solution to this particular solving problem. If you have any question, you can always leave it on the comment section, or you can contact us directly, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So until we see you on our next video, ensure you keep staying safe and have a very good time. Bye.